All right, here are some Chapter 2 problem-solving equations from Section 2.2, Part 1. Number 1, negative 3x equals 18. So we have negative 3 times x. We want to divide by negative 3 to solve for x. So you can just divide by the coefficient of x. That way the negative 3's cancel. So we have x equals negative 6. And then we have to check it. Now to check it, you're only doing order of operations over here after you plug in the value for the variable. So since x is negative 6, we plug that in. And negative 3 times negative 6 is 18. So I'm just simplifying the left-hand side. Now I'm going to do the right-hand side. There is nothing except an 18, so there's nothing to simplify. It's already simplified. And I've got the same number on both sides. So when you plug in negative 6, it's a true equation since you have the same number on both sides of the equal sign. Therefore, negative 6 is the correct solution. And one way of writing the solution set is inside these braces. Number 2 is just like number 1. We're going to divide by negative 5 on both sides of the equation. So the negative 5's cancel out. So x equals, except in this case, it doesn't reduce to something as easy as negative 6, but a negative divided by a negative is positive, so our answer is just 13/5. Now that's perfectly okay to leave it like that. You could change it to a mixed number, but that makes actually the problem more difficult when you check it. So let's just leave it as 13/5. And now we're going to come over to the check and plug in 13/5 for x. And then notice it's going to be negative because you have a negative times a positive on the right-hand side, but the 5's cancel. So you get negative 13 on the left side and negative 13 on the right side. So yes, our solution is 13/5, so that's the correct solution. Keep in mind, one way of writing the solution is to use these braces, 13/5. That's really the answer to the problem. Number 3, 6x plus 7 equals 7. This time we have 6 times x, but we also have plus 7. So first we want to isolate the 6x so we could subtract 7 from both sides of the equation. I'm going to do that vertically. So I'm going to subtract 7 on the left side and the right side. You have to do the same thing to both sides. And that gives me 6x plus 0, which is just 6x on the left side. And 7 minus 7 is 0. All right, so we have 6 times something equals 0. So now we can divide both sides by 6 to get x equals 0, since 0 divided by 6 is 0. So now we have to check it. So we're going to plug in 0 for x and do the order of operations on the left-hand side, showing all steps. 6 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 7 is 7. And on the right-hand side, all there was a 7. So we do get the same number on both sides. So the solution is 0. Number 4, 23 minus m equals negative 11. There are actually a few different ways to go about doing this problem. I'm going to start off by isolating where the variable is. And remember, this minus sign goes along with m, so that's really like a negative 1m if you want to think about that. So if I want to get the minus m on one side of the equation, or the negative m, you'd have to subtract 23 from both sides. And remember, what does that mean to subtract 23? It means you're adding a negative 23 to both sides. So the 23 minus 23 cancels, but don't forget this is negative m equals. And on the right-hand side, you're adding two negatives, so the answer is negative, and then you add their absolute values, so you get negative 34. So basically this is saying negative m equals negative 34. Now, you can just take the opposite of both sides, or divide both sides by negative 1, or multiply both sides by negative 1 to get m equals 34. Alternative way to do this is anytime you have a minus sign in front of the variable, you can just take the opposite of all the terms on both sides before you start the problem. So if I do that, I'm multiplying both sides by -1. That's really the same thing as taking the opposite of something. So I would change that to a -23, change that to a plus m, and change that to plus 11. So this is another way of approaching the problem. And then I could add 23 to both sides. Because I want to get rid of the -23 on this side. So I get m equals 34 again. So that's two ways you could do this problem, but there are more. All right, the check is the same though. It doesn't matter how you solve the problem as long as you're doing the same thing to both sides of the equation, and taking the opposite of both sides of the equation is the same thing as multiplying by -1. So you are doing the same thing to both sides. So I'm going to plug in 34 for m, and remember that means 23 plus -34. And now I'm going to do my rules for adding positive and negative numbers. There's more negative numbers. And then you subtract 34 minus 23 and you get -11. And on the right side, it was a -11. So this does check. So the solution was 34. So that's two approaches to this particular problem. Number 5, 2/11m equals -44. There are different ways to solve this problem, but a simple way is, since you have 2/11 times m, if you multiply by the reciprocal of 2/11, you'll just have 1m, which is what you'd like. So one way to do this is multiply both sides by 11/2. I can't show every single way any person might do the problem, so I'm going to generally just do it one way. And the 11s cancel, the 2's cancel, I get 1m, and so our answer is just m equals, and now over here, I've got a negative times a positive, so it's negative. And let's see, 2 goes into 44, 22. So I have 22 times 11, and that is 242. So that's the answer, hopefully. Now we're going to check it. You're going to plug in -242 for m, and I'm going to write that as a fraction. So I have a positive times a negative, so my answer is going to be negative. And let's see, 11, does that go into 242? Well, you could just do long division, and you will get -22. So this will be -44. And on the right side, I've got -44 as well, so this is the correct answer. You could also first just multiply both sides by 11 to get rid of the fraction. So some people do this in 2 steps. Just take a look. Another model for this is if you have 2/11 m equals -44, you could first multiply both sides by 11 to get rid of the denominator, so that you would get m equals -484 on the right-hand side and just 2m. Then you would divide both sides by 2, and you would still end up with -242. So you would get the same answer of -242.